Good morning and welcome to Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Reverend Vaughan Amaré and I am delighted to be here with you. Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living is a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. And Northern Lights Center for Spiritual Living offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. Our promise is to reveal, inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. We acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands and waters of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and Coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. In a similar fashion, we acknowledge how much of what we know in this country today, its culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horrors of transatlantic trafficking, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We also name the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little recognition. We are indebted to all of their labors and sacrifices, and we must acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and resulting impacts that can still be felt and witnessed today. Please join me for our opening song, Woke Up This Morning, and it should be visible on your screens. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Well, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Well, I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. All day long I keep my mind stayed on spirit. Well, all day long I keep my mind stayed on spirit. All day long I keep my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. With sound effects.
Good morning, all. So before we begin on this morning's meditation, I want everyone to think of something that brings you joy. So let me know when you have it. Okay, I see one person has it.
No.
2 people have it. 3 people, 4. Ooh, okay. We're still 5. Okay. So we will just proceed with that. So let's allow ourselves to get comfortable in our seats. Having our hands in our laps. in an open and upright position, allowing our eyes to close. And let us take 3 deep cleansing breaths in and out together. So let's breathe in. And let it go. And breathe in again. And let it go. And one more time, in. And let it go. And just allowing ourselves to be in a very relaxed state, in a state of letting go of any distractions, letting go of the past, letting go of anticipation of the future, just being here in this present, perfect moment. And so let's bring to mind that thing, that experience, that person, that internal feeling of joy. Allow yourself to experience the joy, you feel within. Feel the joy. Feel the joy circulating through every cell of your body. Feel how good it feels to be in joy. And so let's now use our imagination to create a feeling of more joy. So imagine that experience, that feeling, that person, that thing, and using your imagination, just allow it to expand, to get bigger, to expand and experience more and more joy. There is an endless amount of joy. You are limitless. There are no boundaries to the joy you can experience in life. So allow it to expand. Allow it to grow. And see it radiating from your body out into the world and creating more joy for the entire planet. Imagine the intensity just growing and growing, expanding, growing, even more brilliant, even more amazing. The joy. Just allow it to radiate out. And feel how good it feels. And just you allow yourself to revel in it. And seeing others reveling in their joy. Imagine a world where everyone is just reveling in joy. How good does that feel? And so let us allow ourselves to come back into the room, back into this space. But we're coming back transformed. We're coming back reveling in joy and allowing that joy to guide and direct. And so back into the room, back into the space. And so it is. So reading or next, you?
No, it's, you can do the, if you want, you can lead the, community affirmation.
Oh, okay, I will do that. It's where?
It's gonna be up on, it'll be on the screen.
Okay,
As soon as
as soon as we find it.
There it is.
There we go. Oh, okay, so let us say we do it 3 times,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Let us do our declaration together 3 times. Okay, here we go. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. We are an expanding and loving community working in a field of infinite potential. And so it is. Ooh, we got hiccups in the room. And so this morning's reading comes from, guess what? My phone. Surprise, surprise. Joy and imagination change the world by acting as engines of creation and resilience, allowing individuals to envision and subsequently manifest a better reality. Imagination breaks through limitations to design new solutions and possibilities, while joy acts as a rejuvenating, revolutionary force that builds emotional resilience and keeps us engaged in creating a positive future. How imagination changes the world. The first way is the seed of creation. Every invention and societal structure began as an image in someone's mind. By envisioning a future not yet confirmed by the senses, individuals change their neural pathways, shifting from reacting to the world to creating it. So I'm saying that again, shifting from reacting to the world to creating it. The other way imagination changes the world is alternative possibilities. Imagination allows us to move beyond what is to what if. And we had a talk about what if a few weeks ago. Exploring a wider space of solutions to complex problems. Another way imagination changes the world is by shifting perspectives. It provides new lenses to view old problems, enabling innovation in tackling challenges like the climate crisis and all the other crises that we're going through right now. How does joy change the world? The first way is resilience and action. Joy is not just passive happiness. It is an act of resistance against despair, providing the energy needed to sustain efforts for change. Another way is improved well-being. Cultivating joy through imagination reduces stress and improves mental well-being, fostering a more positive and productive approach to life. And the third way in which joy changes the world is connection and community. Joy is often found in shared experiences, strengthening communities, and fostering compassion and love. By engaging in spiritual imagination, grounding oneself in present joy, and dreaming of a better future, we can create a reality based on love, hope, and humanity. And so it is.
Oh,
Oh, joy? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah. She said that she had an appointment, but she pushed it back so that she could at least get on a little bit. Yeah.
You're a joke.
Well, been having issues with YouTube.
That was the message. Blame it on the AI. Blame it on the AI. Better blame it on the moon. I think that was the song, wasn't it?
Yep, it was.
Oh.
So you had the experience of singing and dancing. You have the experience from the meditation of what joy is. Today's talk is want to change the world? Enjoy it. I'm proposing, and this week's talk is about how joy can inspire our imaginations, and together that helps to change the world. Now, this may be something you don't want to hear. Perhaps you love the world just as it is. Perhaps everything that's happening in the world is to your fullest delight. Now, if that's the case, then my suggestion is just turn off and go away, because I'm here to talk about how to respond when we're finding that rather than joy in response to the world, we're having different feelings. So, for example, now, what is it, 4 weeks, 3 weeks ago? It's hard to keep track, but this is entering the 4th week of a war with Iran. And our president said that it was, has already repeatedly said how we've won it. So that should have many people feeling excited, because if we won something, don't you feel excitement and joy when you've already won something? And yet, despite winning something, we're talking about sending troops there. And again, I don't know about you, but I know that I don't have happy feelings that emerge with the idea of sending troops there. I haven't had happy feelings about bringing untrained, masked people who are, in essence, breaking the law into our big cities and capturing people who were supposedly the worst of the worst. I saw one video where an elderly gentleman was taken out of his home in snowy weather in his underpants and a pair of slippers. These are things that don't make me happy. George Floyd. I say his name because one of the powers of responding to injustice is reclaiming it and renaming it. And George Floyd was charged and made guilty before he ever had an opportunity to come to the criminal justice system. So I find that we are living in times where things are happening with a level of frequency. I saw a news report this morning that the United States as a country has dropped and is no longer a democratic nation in terms of the indices. We're below where we were when the Civil Rights Act was enacted. So I say this because if you have a sensation of something's not quite right in the world, I want us to be able to figure out how to respond to that with more than justified anger. Because when we respond repeatedly with anger, we're not adding anything new to the mix. The idea of joy and the idea of imagination is that we all are empowered with marvelous capacities. So again, when Stephanie led us in that meditation, all she had to do was ask us to remember a time of joy. How difficult was that? How difficult was it to get in touch with that joyous feeling? I remembered a night of seeing just the darkness of the night, no streetlights anywhere, and just the fullness of the stars in the sky. And seeing that star-filled sky, shooting star after shooting star. And people said, well, that can't happen. Well, it did. I remember the joy of that. What was the joy that you remembered? What was the joy that you recaptured? The thing about joy is that it doesn't require circumstances. The experience of joy is, it unfolds itself to us the same way that life unfolds itself to us, the same way that love unfolds itself to us. Again, I can't speak for any of you, but there have definitely times that I have loved and there really isn't a good explanation for it. The things about joy and beauty and love and wisdom is that there's possibly no logical explanation. It's a response we have to living. Now, I was raised Roman Catholic. And the story of Jesus's death on the cross and the resurrection was a big deal. And Stephanie is shaking her head. She was also raised Catholic. It was a big deal. So when I was diagnosed with diabetes and I had to have insulin shots every day, the kind of mantra that I was having was offer your suffering up to God. And so that I was built up with this notion that suffering was somehow some special passageway to the divine. That the more you suffered, the better you were because you were getting ready for heaven because you had done all your suffering before here. How many of us have, through whatever practices of being raised up, have carried out and carried on this tradition that somehow suffering makes us worthy? How many of us have had our own holy books of suffering? How many of us have been able to counter, when somebody tells a bad story, oh, I've got one that's even worse. In the Science of Mind teaching that Ernest Holmes pulled together, and he pulled it together from a whole bunch of different places. He drew on philosophers, he drew on scientists, he drew on religious texts. And he proposed new ways of thinking about the world. Ernest Holmes wrote, "Joy must be based on an inward sense of security, a sense of belonging to life and to each other, a desire to give, to be kind and compassionate, and to be able to put ourselves in the other person's position." So what if changing the world isn't about controlling it and controlling all the stuff that we see as a problem? What if it's about changing our consciousness? So instead of starting the day with our list of all the things that we've been carrying around on our back, how miserable life is, what if we deliberately shift our focus to joy? When we had that experience in the meditation, and Reverend Pamela Grace Beatty, who founded this center, talked about how Stephanie frequently came up with a meditation and reading that said everything you needed to hear that she was going to talk about. And that's really, Stephanie has continued to do that. So religious scientists have been known to say, change your thinking, change your life. So if we change our thinking and start from a place of joy rather than working towards joy, rather than saying, somehow I'm going to get to joy today, what happens if we declare that we are already experiencing joy? And when I've told the story before about my first time skiing, I spent a lot of times on that ski slope on the ground. And what my instructor said is, you're looking at the ground. And so you keep ending up on the ground. You have to look where you're going. And I was looking where I was going. How often are we looking where we're going and we're disappointed? Again, I remember the line of, expect the best, prepare for the worst. And if you're preparing for the worst, you're expecting the worst. You're not really open to the best. You've got this side hustle conjoining with and bonding with the worst possible outcomes. So my proposal is to shift to joy. And it's a conscious choice rather than oh, look, these are joyful circumstances. I can be joyful now. If we're looking at the circumstances, we're not going to find things. The Wright brothers, who invented flying, didn't invent it from having seen other people's airplanes. They did it because they imagined it. They imagined the joy of that speed, of that lift. Reverend Michael has talked about the delight working for the airlines, just what the delight of flying is. Each one of us has our own response to the world. Each one of us has our own things that bring joy to us, that help us start from a place of joy. So to change our thinking and to change our lives, what if we change where we start from? What if we change our day instead of preparing for the worst or expecting suffering, which is kind of what I was raised on, and saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. Many people have heard me talk about the Bob Newhart episode where a woman comes to him and says, I want you to fix a terrible problem that I've had and I've been carrying it on for so long. And he's like, oh, I can do that. I can do that in 2 minutes. Sometimes it takes as much as 15 minutes. It's like, how do you do it? Well, just tell me what it is that you want to stop. She's like, well, I'm terrified of being buried alive. And he asks her, have you ever been buried alive? No. And his simple response is, stop it. But don't you need to know about all of my history? No, stop it. We're so caught up in those stories we tell, in those experiences that we've had, that we won't be open enough to the joys and the possibilities. So I'm going to go once again with Bob Newhart's directive to stop it. For starting from a place of misery, stop it. I am fairly deliberate about watching the news, but I watch the news because it's an opportunity for me to also engage and think of what can I do? How do I respond? How do I act from a place of knowledge and confidence rather than hopelessness? So I don't watch the news to pull me down. I watch the news to figure out where are the places that I can be bringing joy. I work as a school psychologist when I'm not here on Sundays and when I'm not doing my ministry. And in some ways, the school psychology is a ministry because what I'm doing there is I'm working with students who are typically having a difficult time in school. And it's not uncommon that these students who are having a difficult time in school have family members who have had a difficult time in school. And what I'm trying to do is to figure out where are their strengths? Where are their skills? Where is it that they can do well? And how do we tap into those? How do we tap into their strengths rather than spending so much time and so much attention on their weaknesses? So I'm going to propose 3 things. Using our imagination as a tool, recognizing joy as our birthright, and looking for the good, seeing the good in each other. So again, imagination as a tool, joy as our birthright, and looking for the good in each other. So as Stephanie identified in the reading, the world has changed with imagination. Back in 1980, when I was in my freshman year of college, I took a computer science course. And in order to do a program, I had to type on about 75 cards to come up with the solution to 1 + 1 = 2. It took at least 75 cards. And the cards all had to be in a certain order. Because if any card was out of order, I would run it through the computer and the computer would tell me this doesn't work. And so I'd have to look through all my cards and figure out, where did I make my mistake? Now I say all of this because back in 1980, that computer that was the size of a room 4 times this wasn't all that smart. I mean, most of us, if we have a cell phone, are able to do things. If you're watching this on a computer, you can probably get the answer to 1 + 1 with very limited effort. Now, that happened though, because people use their imagination to see a different way than this room-sized computing device. Our imaginations let us shift from where we are to where we want to be. Several weeks ago when I talked, I spoke about I spoke about imagination and the song from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. If you can imagine anything, you can do it. That was the story in Willy Wonka. It was this incredible factory full of beauty, and I would also say a little bit of mischief. Imagination allows us greater access to joy and liberation. Our imagination lets us practice freedom. It lets us practice living in the world we want to see. Imagination lets us shift from joy as merely possible, but joy as inevitable. And again, part of it is embracing that imagination. I mean, I suspect that Jeffrey is using his imagination every single time he comes to what others have experienced as an unsolvable problem. But Jeffrey's mechanical skills help him see other possibilities that were invisible to others. Stephanie has created fashions and designs that go out into the world. It goes from her head to out in the world, to people wearing it. Stephanie has won contests with what she's imagined and then put into the world. So when I say that imagination is powerful, when I say that imagination makes joy possible and it makes joy inevitable, I'm not talking just woo-woo. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm talking about actual experiences. So imagination is a tool. The second thing is joy is our birthright. Now, the founders in the United States talked about the pursuit of happiness as a fundamental right. Now, when they first started saying this, their limited imaginations were basically the pursuit of happiness is available to rich white landowners and not really anybody else. Again, I mean, if you look at your early history, African American enslaved people were only counted as 3/5 people. And I say this historically because as we come up on the 250th anniversary of the United States has not been this herald of all good and all wisdom that we sometimes have heard pronounced. But the idea of the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of joy as a fundamental human right has been expanding. Take a moment and think. When does a benefit to me take away the benefits to others? And if that's happening, then what's another way that this benefit can unfold? Can we be conscientious to recognize that every other being is entitled to joy? We're in a world filled with inequities. Do those inequities expand joy or cause it to contract? In some ways, I think it's kind of a self-revelatory question. In the midst of inequities, joy is constrained. The idea is that there's only this much joy, and if I have to share it, then there won't be as much joy left for me. But when I described the vastness of the sky and filled with stars, it was infinite. And my joy about that was as infinite. Other people seeing those stars had no impact on my enjoyment of those stars, on my pleasure of those stars. We are entitled to working with the systems into which we were born and to say, stop it. Joy is a birthright for all, not just for some. It is a communal responsibility. If I'm feeling joy and other people are feeling pain, I have to be open enough to recognize, and I have to be kind enough to not point blame. I heard the thing about the blame for the AI on the initial difficulty with hearing the song that Joy that we were going to play. One of the features about joy, one of the features about imagination is that we don't need to rely on that old practice of blame. Blame is really easy. It's an old habit. But it's an old habit that I say we can set aside. What old habits do you want to set aside so that joy is more readily available and seen as the birthright of all. How do those singing birds limit my joy? If I'm walking and I'm grumpy on my way to work and those birds are singing, like you got stuff to sing about, but I've got these meetings. If I were to carry that attitude the whole day, you can bet my meetings wouldn't be very pleasant. We have the opportunity to catch ourselves when we've fallen into old habits and old ways of thinking. We have the opportunity to choose new ways. And the new way that I'm proposing is joy is the birthright of all. See what it's like to carry that expectation rather than joy is mine and nobody else's. It's only mine. And if anybody tries to take it away, they're going to pay for it. Now, I would say we have some where that's what's happening. Watched a TikTok this morning where the person was saying, it's very easy to lie. All you have to do is lie and it's there. But it takes 10 times the effort to undo what the lie plants. And I'm saying that joy is only limited is a lie that many of us have bought. But the truth is that joy, like life and like love, happens without limit. Now, the third thing that I want to talk about is spending our time looking for good in each other. Now, this came up to me several years ago when I went to my practitioner and I was just so mad at this coworker. I just was like, oh, can you believe she's doing this? And my practitioner invited me. What's something good about this person? There's nothing. There's nothing good about X. Well, as long as I held this person in such contempt, was that expanding me or shutting me down? And my practitioner helped me see that it was shutting me down. Now, I'm sure we all have people who get under our skin and who make us think, oh, wouldn't life be better without you? What's the good? I've talked about, how I can see Donald Trump as good because it's like, what is he doing? I should do the exact opposite of that. He is pointing what he's doing. I'm going to go in the opposite direction. Now that's how I see good there. How do I see good? This is a person who's just scared. This is a person who is insecure. This is a person who has an incredible amount of power. And, watch the news segment this morning. He gives shoes that don't fit to the members of the people around him, the dudes that work for him. They showed a picture of Marco Rubio in his Florsheim shoes, and they're at least 2 sizes too big. You could see the back of his foot, was far away from the heel of the shoe. Now, I'm not going to say that that's a good thing. And I'm not going to say that fear that Marco Rubio has to wear these ill-fitting shoes is a good thing. I can look at, this is a person who's giving people something. Okay, that's a good thing. How might I improve upon it? Use my imagination. Oh, I could give people the right thing. I could give people something that fits. How do we spend our time looking for the good rather than judging what's irritating? When we practice justice, it's an opportunity to live the truth that all people are entitled to lives of dignity, safety, and joy. When I see others are obstructing that. So here are the stories about the giant warehouses that are being purchased to imprison 5,000, 10,000 people. I don't have to see that as a good thing. I can see that there are people who are just very scared. And that's an experience I've had. I've been scared. Has anyone here ever been scared? Rather than finding so many differences, what if we find the places where we're connected? Yes, you're scared. And your solution to being scared, there may be better solutions. Rather than, I judge you because you come up with a really crappy solution. Judgment shuts us off from joy. Can you ever think of a time you've been judging someone and you're just filled with joy about it? My bet is, and I will bet on this, that when you've been in a judgmental mode, you're not really at your peak experience of joy. Stephanie has brought in a chart of the human experiences and the amount of power and the amount of energy associated with them. And there are some states, fear is an example, shame is an example of states where we aren't our expanded selves. Truth is a more expanded self. Love is a more expanded self. Faith is a more expanded self. How do we look for the good rather than focus on the bad? Barack Obama had said, change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change we seek. Aristotle had said to live joyfully is an inward power of the soul. Joy and imagination are tools that are constantly available to us. So what do? I've got a couple of ideas for things that we can do. Take some time this week and notice how your experience of joy connects with joy in others. When you're joyful, do you notice a connection with others' joy? Perhaps you want to journal about a time you felt most alive, most joyful. We can take some time and journal about or ask about, where do I see good in others who irritate me? How can I find joy rather than just irritation? So those are some journaling things. How does my joy connect to the joy of others? How do I see good in people who irritate me? Take time, sometime this week in your life work, to do one intentional act that affirms happiness and joy as a shared birthright. Maybe it's simply greeting others with genuine warmth. They've talked about the Seattle chill. Well, maybe you do something to turn up the heat on the Seattle chill. I used to be a checkout person. And there was a difference when people were like, here, get this, take this, do this for me, and do it now, versus, how are you? Now, sometimes I got people off of that track because I would usually say, how are you? Did you find what you wanted? If you didn't, is there anything I can help you with now? People in the further in the line would be like, shut up. We've got things we want. How do you do something that's genuinely kind? Take time to look for and see the good in others. And hold an inner intention to carry joy as your starting place rather than as your destination. So I have a final affirmation for us. Which Michael will put on the screen so that you could all see it. Yeah, please join me. I changed the world by enjoying my life. I changed the world by enjoying my life. I changed the world by enjoying my life. And so it is. Thank you. And stop the recording.